Hey everyone, welcome to Python MC. I'm your Python MC coach, Richard Ashe, and in this section, all we're going to do is introduce you to EarSketch. EarSketch is our tool for turning Python code into music tracks. And simply put, it's a digital audio workstation, which is a term for GarageBand or Ableton or Reaper, any of these tools that are used to basically, normally you drag and drop media files like sound files and then turn them into music tracks. The big difference with EarSketch is it allows you to turn Python code. Instead of dragging and dropping, you're using Python code to create music tracks. We'll just walk you through each part of EarSketch. So the first thing you have to see is the sound browser. In the sound browser, I have all sorts of music tracks, and I can look by artists. So a lot of these are from Young Guru, the producer behind Jay-Z, and Richard Devine. We also have some great some genres that you can sort through. So I'm just going to go into genres, and let's see, I've got Dusty Groove here, hip hop Dusty Groove, and I can test that out just by playing it. And I can show you how to actually use that in a track later. Then I'll walk through here, and I'll actually, let's see, in the case of Dusty Groove, I'm going to go ahead, if I log into this, let me just create a new user account. I'm going to call it test user. I'll call it Bob test 123, and then I'm going to put in a password. Actually, I'm going to create an account right here. So I'm going to put Bob test user 3, first name's Bob, and then password, I'm going to put in the password, and then I'm going to put in the password here, and then I'm going to create an account. You don't even have to put in a user account. You just have to remember what your password is. Okay? So I got my Bob test user, and now and then I'm going to go back in here, and now you'll see I can actually have, you see it's a different feature here. Before, it just had the play button and this blue button. Now it has a star, because that means I can save it. I can save it to my favorites, and then when I click on my favorites, there it's right there. That's in my favorites now. And I can then sort through here. What we recommend you do to get yourself into this is just start playing around with beats, like seeing what you like, and just hit play, test these out. And you can barely hear that one. There's another one. I like that one. I'm going to put that into my favorites. Now I have two things in my favorites. Make sense? So you're going to want to do that later, because when you start to remix, you're going to want to have a bunch of beats that you already like, because there's a bunch of stuff that I can assure you that you won't like. So I don't know your taste in music, but for this one, that is something necessarily I would put in a music track. No offense to those of you who actually would do that. The point being is you don't want to spend all your time while you're actually ready to code just trying to get through beats. You want to have a bunch of beats ready to rock. So just use favorites, and then you'll be off and running fast. The next bit we're going to show you is scripts. I've just showed you one that I've created already. It's called test.py, which is nothing really. It's just basically the intro template on Python of EarSketch. Now I've actually opened up one of my lessons here, and if I was a student of my own class, I would get this lesson, and then I'd want to import to edit. So if someone shares a lesson with you, so if you're working with a teacher and they share a lesson with you, then you get import to edit, and I'm going to just save that as my own. I'm going to create a copy, and then I'm going to create, and that copy is going to be renamed to, let's see, Bob. Put my name on it, test 123, and then second loop, then I can keep the rest as is, and then I can start making this my own. I can say, you know what, I'm not too fond of that being my first beat in my list of loops. I'm going to instead put in one of my favorites here, and then just drop that in. So I'm just going to go into my favorites. I'm going to copy in one of my beats. So if I want to copy beats into a list line of code, you don't expect to understand what all this code means yet. We'll explain that pretty quickly. Let's say I want to put in Dusty Groove 01. I'll just hit the blue button right there, and I just paste the perfect copy of that code. So now I get it exactly right. If you try to type it in yourself, you're probably making a mistake. All right, so I've already played around with sounds, and then I've played around with the scripts, and now I've saved a script and I've imported it to edit it. And let's go into here and then see what I got here. This is where I'd actually get shared scripts. So if someone sent something to me and assigned it to me, I would see it in here. And this next bit starts to get pretty complicated. I do not expect you to understand this yet. But if I was to go into my little script on my own and just do test 3, and I wanted to say, okay, well, I want to just learn how to insert just a clip of music, and my teacher told me I can do that with insert media. So then I can search in this section. This is just what we call the API browser. I'm not going to go into detail for now what API is. That's a separate conversation. But just know that this is where all the built-in functions for EarSketch will be found. These are not standard Python. So in this case, I'll just copy in insert media, and I was like, well, what is file name and what is track number and track location? What does this thing do? Well, then I can just click on this eyeball and it says what it does. It inserts the entire media file. When you think of media file, think of basically a sound clip onto a specific track at the specified starting time. So that could be a recording of a voice, it could be a recording of a beat in here, it could be something you uploaded into EarSketch. And so it could be whatever you want that's already in EarSketch. And jumping back in a second, I'll show you how to upload your own tracks. So it takes 3 parameters. We'll explain what parameters mean later, but basically these are just placeholders for information. And so it says, insert media, and then I'm going to have a file name and a track number. So I'm going to start at track number 1, and then it says the location. The location means the measure. At what time does it start? So I'll go into measures later, but then insert media, then it has a file name. Let's say I'm going to go into my sound browser, and I'm just going to drop in Dusty Groove. And all that's going to do is it's just going to play that sound clip for me. So this is a very basic EarSketch. And you'll see these measures. So you'll see that there's going to be, in this case I have 120 beats per minute, and you'll see that there'll be a beat. This will be measure 1, measure 2, measure 3, etc. Okay, so there'll be 4 beats for each measure, and then you'll see me go. That's a standard sort of 4/4 pattern, and so you'll see this is measure 1, measure 2, and then that plays out. That's the sort of standard length of this track. And so I can then play around with a bunch of different things here in the API browser, which again, it's just all the built-in functions of EarSketch. Let's see, what else do I have? Then I could show you down here, this is when you really want to explore everything that EarSketch has to offer. This is where you can really go into, they actually have their own built-in curriculum which you can navigate through, and you can also just search on, let's say, for example, I want to learn about effects, and it tells me every effect explained. It gets super technical. It gets into, the way sound works and all the different properties of sound and how you can manipulate that. So you can learn lots of stuff. There's sort of a very high ceiling in EarSketch. You can learn as little or much as you want about music in here. It's a pretty expansive platform. So that's the intro to EarSketch. We haven't explained everything. We've just given you the basics. This will enable you to start on the first part of the Python MC curriculum, which is about variables. And we'll get into that, and then later you'll start to use variables as well as loops, conditionals, and functions as part of your Python knowledge that you'll gain over this course, and then you'll immediately apply that in each section into making your own music tracks. So until then, have fun. Looking forward to getting into it, and see you next time on Python MC.